So you're going to need a nice, flat, solid surface to work with. I'm just working at a desk, and I put down some paper towels to help with cleanup. And this is naked pigment, by the way. And then you're just going to take your spatula and scoop out a small amount of pigment to put into the pan. Now, what I find works is to just, take a little bit at a time. And it may seem a bit tedious, but it's been my experience that, if you try to put a ton in all at once, you'll end up spilling it, wasting it, and just making more of a general mess. If you don't care, then, you can get it done quicker, but I like to take my time, and I'm just filling up the bottom of the pan. I don't know if you can see from that angle. I'm just trying to get an even distribution of pigment. Obviously it's not perfect. And then once I've done that, and a fair amount in there, I'm going to take the dropper and add, maybe 5 or 6. And what that's going to do is it's just going to act as a mixing medium and allow you to more easily mix the pigment, as well as temporarily bind it together so that you actually have something to press. Again, I'm just sort of holding or pinning the pan against my finger and scraping the spatula along the bottom of the pan. I find that's a really good way to make sure that you get a really good mix and you don't end up with any chunky bits. Now it's getting a little bit harder to mix, so I'm just going to add a little bit more alcohol. And the thing that's nice about using alcohol to mix is that you're not actually adding anything additional in terms of changing the pigment, because the alcohol evaporates and it just leaves you with the pigment. So from all of the pigment that we, scooped into the pan in the beginning, hold on a sec, you can see here that, it's certainly not full. So we're just going to go back and get some more pigment and add that into the pan. And again, just doing the same sort of a thing where I'm trying to cover the bottom of the pan, and then I just sort of pin down the pan so I don't have to actually put the spatula down. Add more alcohol to mix. Once it starts getting a bit more full, I just sort of spin the spatula and, I guess you could say, squish the pigment into the alcohol. I find that, stirring or scraping once the pan starts to get really full can get a bit messy. So once it's more even consistency-wise, then it becomes a bit easier. But when there's actually still dry pigment in there, it can go a little crazy. Now, again, I'm just sort of scraping through the pan to make sure that there aren't any dry spots. It's actually looking pretty good so far. And I'm going to go back into the pigment jar one more time, just for a little bit more. Scrape off the spatula so there's nothing wet remaining, and just get a little bit more. This is probably going to be the least amount that you put in of all three steps. You just sort of, I guess you could say, topping it up. So one thing you might notice, depending on the finish of your pigment, is that the color seems to change. And what I found is that when you actually get pigments wet, whether you're foiling them or in this case pressing them, you really get a good feeling for the true color. Sometimes dry pigments can be misleading, so it's always interesting to see how they turn out. This one is just sort of like a beige tan color, with like a silver sparkle through it, and you can actually see silver swirls in the mixture we've got going on here. So the last thing I'm going to do, again, you can see this, is just scrape the spatula off, and then I'm just going to set this down. What we're going to do with this, actually I'm just going to set it to the side, is you want to wait for that. This is Jardinières, also by MAC, and as you can see, you know, the pigment has set in the pan. It's not going anywhere. And what you're going, or what I do, some people do it differently, I just lay the cloth over top of the pan, so you can see the outline of it there, and I place the coin into the pan like so, and then I'll take something. In this case, I'm actually just going to take the pigment jar, and I'm going to put the lid down, and I'm just going to push. Whoops. I'm going to put my fist like that. I'm going to steady it with my hand though, so you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm just pushing down, and then you're going to let up. As you can see, the coin's actually sunk down into the pan, so what you're going to do is just pull up the cloth. You can see that you've pulled out some of the alcohol, and there you go. There's your finished pressed pigment that you've gone from this, and now you've got something you can throw in your palette. So as I mentioned with the magnets before, I'm just going to clean off a little bit of pigment that's on the back. I just use these little squares. They come in strips like this. I just got these at Michael's, and I'll take a pair of scissors and I'll cut it diagonally from corner to corner, and you end up with these small little triangles here. They're actually, the white is the backing, so you just peel that off and stick it onto the back of your pan. So now you have a magnetized pan, and you can take your palette and pop it in there, and it's not coming out. So that is how I press my pigments. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment down below, and I will catch up with you guys later. Bye.